everyone, especially you Motherland, Fort Salem fans and superfans out there. For this video, I thought I'd talk about some similarities and differences between some couples. I mean, so much so I have to use some Venn diagrams to explain it. Right. What you see here is a Venn diagram between Ruby and Sapphire and Rael Collar and Scylla Ramshorn. I mean, I've mentioned this frequently in various Motherland Fort Salem videos that Rael and Scylla are the Ruby and Sapphire of the live-action TV universe. I'm pretty sure you're tired of me saying this, but I'm willing to mention mention it however many times it takes, in order to get my point across and for there to be more Motherland Fort Salem seasons. What I first want to point out to you is these first three points, what the two couples have in common. For the first one, they're both LGBT couples, but they're basically lesbian, or otherwise known as queer couples. They both have names starting with letters R and S, and they're so close that they can't stand to be apart. For differences, for Ruby and Sapphire, they're gem characters, whereas for Rael and Scylla, they're human characters, but they're also witches as part of humans. All right. As for TV shows they're from, Ruby and Sapphire from a cartoon called Steven Universe, emphasis on a cartoon, whereas Rael and Scylla are from a live-action show called Motherland Fort Salem. Of course, heavy emphasis on live action here. All right. So, of course, and based on those differences, are also from supernatural or fantasy TV shows. And one last similarity they have is powers involving a yin and yang. But for the difference being, Rael and Scylla are part of their powers are associated with a yin and yang, being life and death. Of course, Rael is a fixer, therefore saves people from death, and Scylla is a necro. Right, for Ruby and Sapphire, their power yin and yang is associated with hot or cold or fire and ice. For Ruby, of course, she's associated with hot or fire, and Sapphire is associated with ice or cold. In terms of the relationships, while they're so close that they can't stand to be apart, for Ruby and Sapphire, they fuse into a gem named Garnet. I mean, their closeness and their negative attitude about being separated is still present among the two, when they're not fused as Garnet. And for Rael and Scylla, on the other hand, they want to stand by each other indefinitely, but don't necessarily fuse into one person. Of course, doesn't necessarily stop them from having a negative attitudes about being separated. Of course, where I've established that when two people become one in a couple, for Ruby and Sapphire, it's more a literal sense, whereas for Rael and Scylla, it's a metaphorical sense. And last but not least, based on their pronouns. For Ruby and Sapphire, they have female pronouns but are considered non-binary. Rael and Scylla, on the other hand, they're both female and have female pronouns. Next up, I have a three-way Venn diagram between the couples Celia Booth and Temperance Brennan from Bones, Richard Castle and Kate Beckett from Castle, and Rael Collar and Scylla Ramshorn from Motherland Fort Salem. I can tell you what the three couples have in common is that they live in the United States of America. One party and three couples have or had more than one job, and they're also main couples in their respective shows, and they're also power couples too, and that they're so close that they can't stand to be apart. What I want to discuss first is what the couples from Bones and Castle had in common. They're straight couples, and they're from crime drama TV shows. One party and both couples are part of law enforcement, whereas the other is an author. One party is gut or imagination focused, and the other is logically focused. The relationships took time to develop, and both couples have had names involving the show's titles. For Rael and Scylla, they're an LGBT couple, as in a queer couple. They're from a supernatural show. And one key point here is that their relationship almost happened immediately. For the different, before I go any further, the differences here, Celia Booth is an FBI agent and is focused on gut is on gut instinct, and Temperance Brennan is an author and forensic anthropologist focused on logic. For Castle and Beckett. Beckett is a detective at NYPD and is focused on logic. Castle is an author and a civilian investigator and is focused on the imagination. Of course, I want to start this off what Brennan and Booth have that both Brennan and Booth have, along with Rael and Scylla. One party in both couples are formerly part of something, and as you can see up here, Celia Booth was once a soldier in the army. For Rael and Scylla, they are soldiers at Fort Salem. Rael is a fixer and Scylla's a necro. Scylla was a terrorist, was a terrorist from the spree. Of course, and they also have names starting with letters right next to each other. To show an example, say if someone have names in a couple that start with A and B, for those couples, they A and B are right next to each other, and so that's where I'm going with this. But for this case, this first name start with S and T, and Rael and Scylla start with R and S. Of course, based on what I was talking about, Scylla being a necro and Temperance Brennan being a forensic anthropologist, one party in both couples are obsessed with death and remains. Alright, and for what Castle and Beckett have that are similar with Rael and Scylla, one party has initials R and S, or has initials RC, I should say. One party wasn't big on following rules, and they have known ship names that are used by fans. For Castle up here, to continue on, they have first names starting with K and R, but the letters starting right next to each other only apply to their last names. For Castle, he breaks rules only for justice, and their ship name is Casket, and I first found that out on a DVD, and it's also been on various Motherland various videos on YouTube as well. All right. And as for Rael and Scylla, for Rael Collar, she's had her name since birth. She breaks rules because of her morose attitude being at Fort Salem and her mom's supposed death. And of course, her ship name is Rayla, and I first found that out on a YouTube video. And it's also been part of various Motherland Fort Salem videos as well. Also, where I was going with people living in the U.S., Celia Booth and Temperance Brennan, are from Washington, D.C., Castle and Beckett are from New York City, and Rael and Scylla are from Fort Salem, but lived in different parts of the U.S. before going to Fort Salem. To add in something else here, both Castle and Beckett are couples having names involving the show's title, but for Celia Booth and Temperance Brennan, they had Celia Booth gives Temperance Brennan the nickname Bones because she's great with bones, and for Beckett she calls Castle by his last name. However, it was revealed that he changed his last name from Rogers, from birth, that he's had since birth. But for Rael Collar, she's had her name since birth, like I said. And of course, Rael and Scylla don't have any names or nicknames that involve the show's title or anything. Thank you for watching, everyone. If you like the video, press the thumbs up button and subscribe for more videos. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section, and I'll catch you all in my next video.